Thank you, Chelsea. My name is Martha McDermott. I'm with Illinois Department of Commerce, and we're here today to discuss layoff benefits that are available to you as a result of your layoff, and to let you know what services are available. These services are available under the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, and they're designed to help job seekers access employment, education, training, and support services so you can succeed in the marketplace and to match employers with skilled workers. As a result of your layoff, we wanted to let you know of these benefits. And there are a lot of benefits available, and we hope that you access them to minimize your unemployment. And with that, I'll turn this over to Kathleen Brannigan, and she represents the Cook County workforce and area WorkNet centers that you can access. So, Kathleen?
Yes, thank you, Martha. Thank you, Chelsea. Good morning. My name is Kathleen Brannigan. I am with the Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership, and I'd like to welcome you all to the webinar this morning. And it's my understanding that we may have participants from other local workforce areas, and that would be from Kane County, Lake County, and then, of course, anyone who lives in Cook County. So I'd like to get started here. So the first sheet you see here is basically the title, but this is an official rapid response webinar, and a little bit about rapid response. So what happens in the state of Illinois, as well as across the country, when there are reported layoffs that are made to the respective state, in this case the state of Illinois, we come together as a rapid response team and provide that information about programs and services that Martha had mentioned. And we work together, work very closely actually with the Department of Commerce, the State of Illinois Department of Commerce, as they are the funding organization that manages the entire state of Illinois, and then we're broken off into what we call local workforce innovation areas, and that work on workforce development in that particular region. So I'm going to turn the page and we'll get started here. A little bit about the Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership, and this would be related to all the counties and local workforce areas in the state. But we represent, each area represents a public workforce system. So many people are familiar with the public healthcare system. They're familiar with our public education system, but not until they go through, unfortunately go through a layoff, they hopefully become aware of the public workforce system. And that's what is good today. We're happy that you're joining us because the information that you're going to receive, we'll be going over a lot of information, but it's going to be very helpful to you as you move forward in this transition. So a little bit about the partnership as we refer to it. We represent the public workforce system for Cook County, and we're also the largest workforce development area actually in the country. So we represent the city of Chicago and all suburban Cook. We're also not-for-profit, which is important because we take in monies or funding from different foundations, so that helps us with different workforce initiatives. And we administer, our mainstay is that we administer roughly about $50 million in federal grants through the main grant is the WIOA grant. So as you move forward and work with the workforce system, you'll hear a lot of acronyms. But that one acronym, WIOA, is the Workforce Innovation, Opportunity Act. And we offer services throughout Cook County through 10 workforce centers, and we also contract out approximately 49 service provider partners. They're organizations that their organization focuses workforce development. They're experts in their field, and we contract these agencies out to work with us and deliver those services in the various regions. And we also have 2 satellites and actually a business intermediary we work with. So the workforce system touches a lot of people, as you can see, annually over 140,000 people per year. And we're constantly at work developing, providing employment services, employment placement, and training opportunities, and we're going to cover that shortly. And we work off of that. We have a lot of partners that we work with and work to identify data that's important to us with regards to the labor market and programming that we provide through this grant. We're going to go to the next page, please, Chelsea. So the goal of this webinar. So what we normally do, a lot of times, a good portion of the time, is we go out to the companies on site. This particular one is a statewide layoff event, so the webinar is able to reach a lot of people. This information will also, the webinar will also be available to you if you want to but we provide information and resources on the dislocated worker programs. And our basic objective is to prepare the unemployed to reenter the workforce. Again, the goal is to advise you, which are affected workers, from a company closure, of the educational and training opportunities that is going to help you build new skills. You're going to build on your skill toolbox and have an opportunity to build new skills that will help you in getting placed in a new job. And it's really getting you on the path. So we're talking about employment services first. We're going to spend time on unemployment. We're going to spend time on health insurance and the Affordable Care Act and protecting retirement benefits. But one of the main goals is your job search. That's what's going to be ahead of you. So when I say that, we'll spend a lot of time and answer questions. You can ask questions along. We'll continue with the speakers, and we'll continue to answer questions. So I think you'll find the information helpful. So the goal is to get you on the path once you get into a workforce center, to move you along that path, and then to hopefully successfully get you beyond the job search path. That's really the goal. And again, we work with a lot of people, a lot of partners who are experts in workforce development. So a little bit about the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. It was recently reauthorized last July, and a big focus on that is providing employment services and training that are focused on the demand sectors in the region as well as the demand occupations. In the past, we may have not done that, and people were training in various educational programs that they couldn't get jobs at, so that doesn't make sense. So it's a very tight focus on those demand sectors, demand occupations. These funds are available and provided under the Department of Labor. So this is a national grant. This grant, we're not thankfully impacted by the state budget impasse here in the state of Illinois, so no worries on that. And the other thing is, if you live outside Cook County, in Kane County or Lake County, these services are available there. And we'll talk a little bit later about where to access them. But if you're also possibly moving out of state, these programs are available in that state as well. So if you're going to Indiana, or if you're lucky enough to go to Florida or California, although today is a nice day in Chicago, you will be able to access workforce development programs and services in that state. Again, the WIO grant focuses on employment assistance, employment placement, and training opportunities. Real quickly, again, the grant is administered through the Illinois Department of Commerce and then facilitated throughout the state. So, as a dislocated worker, once you receive notice from a company, the state also receives notice as well, and you officially become a dislocated worker. So therefore, you're able to access services right now. If you have an opportunity that you can go into a workforce center, you can do that, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So as a dislocated worker, you receive the notice of layoff, and you're going through this transition, so you're unemployed through no fault of your own. So therefore, you're eligible for these programs and services through this grant. And the important thing that I want you to be aware of is that these services and programs are available to you at no cost. You've already paid for them through your tax dollars, so we highly encourage you to access them because there's no cost. You've already paid for it, and as we move through this information, you're going to see how helpful they can be as you take your next step. The WIA grant, again, is focused on education, training, and support services to help people succeed in the job market. And also we work very closely with employers so that we're matching jobs to skill sets that people have. And our training programs represent that as well. So how does WIOA help you? These are some of the things. There's different levels to the grant, but at the very base level, anyone, you, your family member, anybody that you know that may be looking for employment or are underemployed may go into a workforce center, an Illinois workforce center, anywhere in the state of Illinois and access these services. Probably one of the most important things or helpful things is that they all have resource centers. And in those resource centers, there are accessible computers with high-speed internet access. We have fax machines. We have printers. We have copiers. We have phones that can all be used free of charge. Most people, now this level would be someone who needs a place to job search. They're very comfortable with a self-directed job search, or they pretty much know their next steps, so they don't feel that they need any one-on-one assistance or guidance and may not want to access the full program. That's fine. And these services are called universal services, so people can go into the workforce center and find out information about workshops. We have job boards. Some of the offices, limited offices, are paired up with the Illinois Department of Employment Security, although that is changing in our state, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But you can access our workforce portal, Illinois WorkNet. You know, again, probably the most important thing here to take away is that you can access workforce centers and use them as a venue, as a location for your job search, within your weekly schedule. But we highly encourage you to apply for the WIOA grant and become one of our clients. And in this screen here, it talks about some of the services that you can access as a WIOA client. And I'll talk shortly about how to access those services. But the important piece here is one-on-one career counseling. So, and that's to help you develop an individual employment plan. So to access services, what you'll do is you will call a workforce center. And again, we're going to go over that, how you access workforce center contact information. You're going to call that workforce center. You're going to find out when they have an orientation. So an orientation is the access point. Some of the centers you can walk in, They have certain days for that and attend an orientation. And at that orientation, they're going to do a deep dive. They're going to talk about some of the information that you need to bring back. The important point that I want to point out is that everyone who is laid off is automatically eligible for these services again at no cost by being a dislocated worker. But what we'll ask for is some proof of layoff. So if you have received a layoff letter from the company, from Computer System Institute, you're going to want to hold on to that. And, at this time, you're going to be getting organized for your job search, so it's time to get a file, a notebook. You're going to want to hold on to that layoff letter, and hopefully you've received that. If not, it's not a problem. There's other ways we can verify unemployment, but that's, so to say, kind of a ticket to access services. And then there'll be some other required documents such as proof of birthday, proof of Social Security number, and some other applicable things, current address, things like that. But at the orientation, they will be going over those specifics with you. So again, I'm not going to read through each item, but the important thing here on this screen when you apply for the Career Service Resource level is working with a career coach one-on-one. They will help you develop, customize an individual employment plan for you, and that's important. Everybody is different. You may be a person who, I just want to get back to work, and we can help you do that. We can help go over a resume, help you develop a resume and cover letter. We can help you get prepared for the job search. Job search is very different. Things are constantly changing. It's very different from if you've worked with your company, for a long time. Things have changed in terms of looking for employment. Everything's digital. We can help you become reacquainted with the current workforce and getting prepared to reenter it. And again, that involves a resume, cover letter, getting prepared for that, getting prepared for an interview. There are different formats these days in getting and being prepared for an interview. And again, we can help you with that one-on-one, or you can you have an opportunity to go through mock interviews and some of these other things here. I also wanted to mention, too, that in our workforce centers in Cook County, we have digital computer training available. And we actually have trainers on staff that have workshops in the workforce centers, and you can access computer training classes to get your skills set up with regards to that. You'll be doing career exploration. There are different workshops for that. You can be directed to different programs on our workforce portal that will help you put together your individual employment plan. Part of that plan may involve training, may involve going back to school. And we have many success stories of people that have thought about going back to school, and that would be to add on to your current skill set or to add new skills or possibly to change industries. Maybe that's something that you've thought about. The WIOA grant can help you accomplish that. The training is focused on occupational, vocational training 2 years or less, and we can subsidize, provide tuition assistance up to $8,000 in Cook County. And again, this is at no cost to you. So that is a substantial opportunity. It is also a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We work with, again, many people that, have thought about, say, going into healthcare, and they're suitable to pursue a career in healthcare. You'll have that opportunity to work again with that career coach, and they'll guide you to different information to help you make that decision and make that commitment to go back to school. But you can receive what we call an individual training account voucher, and again, that can subsidize tuition costs up to $8,000 in Cook County, as well as provide supportive services. And what I mean by that is transportation costs, book costs, things like that. And again, once you get into that workforce center, there's workshops available that will give you the deep dive details on that to help you structure that training going back to school plan for yourself. So great opportunity. Again, I want to mention all of our training programs are available on Illinois WorkNet. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And you can access different training programs by industry and by occupation. And the training has to be WIOA certified, so it's a training program, educational curriculum that is approved by the state of Illinois. And it's a great opportunity. You know, again, we can support you in your educational goals and support you monetarily up to $8,000 in Cook County. And then when you come out of training, once you complete training, all of our organizations, our workforce centers, those organizations that work with you, where you're a client of, have business service teams. So there's job developers that their work scope is to work closely with employers in that particular field, and they're looking to develop relationships so that once a person gets out of training, we're responsible to place you in employment. And we have different programs that help with that, programs such as on-the-job training and employer customized training. Those are programs that we work with the employer in terms of incentives. So there are different things we can work on the employer side to help placement of an individual after they finish training. So I've been talking about this workforce development portal. That portal is Illinois WorkNet. It is an online workforce development portal that is a great tool. It's available to you 24/7. You're already familiar with it because you registered on Illinois WorkNet, and the Illinois WorkNet team, Chelsea, works really hard to provide the most current and diverse, comprehensive information to help you reach your career training and employment goals. It's a great tool, and we encourage everyone to go up on this tool prior to even getting into the Workforce Center, because it will help you develop your game plan. Most important to note here is that as a dislocated worker, you can access the laid-off worker company-specific page that is up on Illinois WorkNet. And if you forget everything we've talked about today, no worries, because you'll be able to access the webinar as well as access all kinds of information. Even if you just, as you go through a transition, it can be very, kind of put you back a little bit. This can help you put your game plan together. What's my next step? What should I do first? Really help you put, one foot in front of the other, as well as learn all the things that resources and other things available to you during this time of transition. This is a little bit more about it, so you can see you can research new career fields, current career fields. This is where you can access, again, the entire WIOA training programs are accessible in Illinois WorkNet. So you can start tonight, you can start this weekend, you can go into a particular industry, and those demand industries are healthcare, manufacturing, transportation and logistics, hospitality, retail, and information technology. You can go in, research a new career field, research the different training programs that are available to you, where training is available, what those schools are that are certified, how long it takes, what their program looks like, and, which will help aid you put together, your educational plan. So there's lots of information that we encourage you to access on Illinois WorkNet. So we're at that point. So on Illinois WorkNet, there is a center locator. So you can go in here, type in your zip code, or you can mirror your search by any of these methods, by zip code, county, some keyword like a town word, and it will pull up all the WIOA workforce centers that are near you, as well as contracted service provider agencies that can provide WIOA services to you. I did want to mention that in Cook County we have 10 workforce centers, and I know in Kane County there is, which would be LWIA 5, there's a workforce center in North Aurora, and then in Lake County there's a workforce center in Waukegan. So again, you can do a search by putting in your zip code or town, and it will bring that information up and talk more about what's available in that center. And each center in the state of Illinois, they may be titled different, but they provide all of the same services. And the workforce centers are really nucleuses of those regions and partner with our libraries, with the city and community colleges, with other organizations that are focused on workforce development. So you're really going to be surprised about the amount of programs, resources, things that are available to help you through this transition. So we highly encourage you to access these services. And again, they're available to you at no cost to you. So I've come to the end of my presentation, but and I see a lot of questions here, so I am going to go back and we'll be answering things specific to your questions. But I want to thank you for joining us today. I know there were others who potentially could not join you, so please share this information with them. This information will be available to them up on Illinois WorkNet under the Laid Off Worker section, as well as we encourage you to access there's a survey, an online survey, and it helps us after this, of course, after this webinar, it helps us to facilitate the financing for any workforce activities that clients, hopefully you'll be a client, that they're interested in. So we really appreciate if you can complete that survey. So again, I want to wish you the best of luck. I'll be watching closely here for questions, so please feel free to ask questions, and everybody have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen, for your information. And again, as Kathleen pointed out, that all this information is on IllinoisWorkNet.com in case you want to access the information when you go home tonight or, next week. So with that, I will turn it over to Lisa. Lisa, I'm not sure how to pronounce your last name.
Just fine. Thank you, Martha. My name is Lisa Stromek, and I am a benefits advisor here in the Chicago Regional Office for the U.S. Department of Labor in the Employee Benefits Security Administration, or EBSA as we call it for short. EBSA enforces a law called ERISA, or the Employee Retirement Income Security Act of 1974, which offers protections for both health and retirement plans. And since job loss affects benefits, I will provide an overview of the applicable provisions to assist you in making the best possible choices with respect to your health and retirement. We'll begin with health coverage, and then we'll end with retirement benefit reminders. There are several options to consider for health coverage. In the next slides, we'll go over different options, including HIPAA special enrollment rights, young adult coverage rights, COBRA, and federal marketplace coverage, or Obamacare, as it's also known. HIPAA, or the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996, is the law that has historically offered protections to participants when switching from coverage under one plan to another. And while this requirement has gone away, since pre-existing condition exclusions are now prohibited effective January 1st of 2014, HIPAA certificates of creditable coverage may still be provided voluntarily by some plans and insurance carriers as a way to provide notice of the last day of your active employee coverage. Keep in mind that your last day of active coverage can be as soon as midnight on the last day of your employment, but may continue through the end of the month or the end of the pay period if your coverage was already paid through a later date. And thanks to a recent health insurance reform under the Affordable Care Act, HIPAA also now provides that when enrolling under a new employer group plan, coverage must be effective no later than 90 days after a new employee satisfies the plan eligibility requirements. Previously, it was permissible for employers to allow enrollment on the first of the month after the employee completed 90 days of service or longer, but now it is limited to no more than 90 days, period. Another provision of HIPAA, called special enrollment, allows someone who qualifies for a spouse's employer's plan but previously declined coverage under that plan to enroll outside of the open enrollment period when there is a loss of coverage. And this can be a cost-effective alternative to COBRA if the other employer-sponsored plan, such as your spouse's employer's plan or a parent's employer's plan if you are younger than age 26, if that plan shares the cost of health insurance premiums for active employees or dependents. And I'll explain further about that when we get into the slides about COBRA. But very often employers will do a cost sharing, so if you can enroll onto an active employer group health plan, meaning active employee coverage, then it may be more cost effective. Special enrollment requests may be required in writing, so you should be sure to check with the employer to understand the plan's requirements. Coverage under the plan must then take effect no later than the first of the month after the request is made. So even though you have 30 days to notify a plan of the request to special enroll, remember to request a special enrollment prior to the start of the coming month if possible to avoid any possible longer break in coverage. And since special enrollment is not an option for everyone, maybe your spouse isn't working or your spouse's employer does not offer health coverage or you're not married, COBRA is something that you'll be very interested to know more about. COBRA is often used in conversation as a plan of insurance or type of coverage, but it is a law which was passed in 1986, and it applies to employers with 20 or more full-time employees. The COBRA law allows you to continue coverage under the same employer group health plan offered to active employees on a month-by-month basis for up to 18 months at your own cost. Because COBRA is a direct continuation of the same plan you had as an active employee, everything about the coverage stays the same, including the proof of insurance card, doctor or provider network, and any progress you've made towards an annual deductible. COBRA allows independent elections, so if your employer offers medical, dental, and vision coverage as separate plans, you can elect to continue just medical but not dental, or vice versa. I mentioned that COBRA can last for up to 18 months, but you should know that it may end sooner. For instance, if an employer decides to end the group health plan or shut down operations completely. In such cases, there may be no plan left in existence for you to continue under COBRA, and that's why it can end sooner. Assuming that the plan is left in place, The one thing that can and usually does change with COBRA is the cost that you are used to paying for the coverage. So if the employer covered a portion of the premium for active employees and deducted the rest from your paycheck, under COBRA they can pass along both the employee's and the employer's cost plus a 2% administrative fee. But remember, there are ways to reduce the cost through independent elections. And just as you can choose to continue a dental plan but not the vision plan, if you have family coverage, you may choose to continue coverage for just one family member rather than the whole family, and the amount that you pay will depend on what you ultimately elect. You will receive a notice in the mail with all the information you need to decide about continuing coverage under COBRA, including the monthly cost and where to send the premium payments. This notice typically arrives within 44 days. The COBRA election notice packet will either have the return address of your employer if they administer COBRA in-house, or the return address of a third party that they've hired to take care of the compliance for them. It's usually a payroll service company such as ADP or a specialized COBRA service provider such as COBRA Source. So be aware that the packet may not say it's from your employer. And when you do receive the notice, you will have 60 days to respond about electing COBRA, starting from the later of the date that your active employee benefits ended or the date of the notice. If you don't want COBRA, you can just let your 60 days to decide run out. You cannot be required to send payment with your election, and if you do elect COBRA, you will have 45 days to make your initial payment. Depending on how long all of this takes, you could end up owing something like 3 months of coverage premiums up front. But going forward, your monthly payment amount is usually due by the first of the month in which you receive the coverage, and you're paying on a month-by-month basis, and it will be considered within grace period if your payment is received within the 30 days of that same month. Keep in mind that the sooner you elect and pay for COBRA, the sooner your benefits will show up as active again. Because of the administrative time delay involved with sending the notice and then the time that you have to make your decision, after your employment ends, your coverage may show temporarily as canceled until your payment is received and posted. However, COBRA is the only coverage option that will cover you back to the date that active employee benefits ended, leaving you with effectively no break in coverage. So any other plan that you sign up for will only cover you going forward from the date of enrollment at some point. So that is one benefit of COBRA. And two final considerations to keep in mind about COBRA are that if you end up being in a situation where you end up having to see the doctor before your COBRA election or payment takes effect and you're still in that temporary interruption of coverage period, it's wise to have a discussion and be open with your doctor's office about it. Ask them to hold off on billing the coverage if they can, and just let them know you're in the process of electing COBRA. That should make life easier for everyone. That way they won't waste their time billing a claim, having it get rejected, and then having to bill you directly, and you won't have to deal with direct billing of claims either. And one thing that I do understand is that you really can't fill prescriptions without an active plan of coverage. There's no pharmacy I know of that will accept, or will dispense medications without accepting payment up front. So if that's an issue, that you have to fill a medication before COBRA would take effect, what you can do is pay out of pocket and hold on to your receipt for reimbursement with the plan once it shows up as active again. I haven't tested it, so I don't personally know, but I have even heard from people that you can even go back to the pharmacy once the coverage is active, and if the pharmacy is able to bill the insurance, then they will issue you a refund on the spot. So that's another thing you could try. And it is definitely advantageous in some circumstances to delay electing COBRA, especially if you have some job prospects and you are interviewing and you're not really certain whether your new employer's health plan will take effect. sooner rather than later. COBRA is a nice way to kind of give yourself an added cushion of time in deciding about what to do for coverage because of this notice and election time frame. And, if you happen to find out within a couple of weeks that you've got your new job and you don't need the COBRA, you even still had that safety blanket in place where you could elect and pay, and it would be covered retroactively if something did happen. And if nothing did happen, you simply saved yourself a little bit of money. There is another consideration now with the IRS shared responsibility tax. Individuals who do not have health coverage for any period during the year may be subject to a tax penalty, but there are a list of exemptions on the IRS website, and so even if you ended up having a month break where you weren't sure if you needed the COBRA, it may not be a big deal because there are some exemptions. One of those exemptions, which you can verify on the IRS website, is if you have a break in between two plans of coverage of 90 days or less, then there is an exemption from the tax. And very quickly, I like to bring this up because if anyone is younger than age 26, this is another option too. Because of the health insurance reform under the Affordable Care Act, one of the new requirements is that employers allow adult-dependent children up to age 26 to join or remain covered on a parent's employer's plan, even if they are married, financially independent, not living with their parents, not full-time students, or even at some instances not eligible to enroll in their own employer's plan, but still prefer the family coverage because of the savings on the premiums. That is, the last one is not an option if an employer's plan has something called grandfathered status. But just in case, this is another option to COBRA. It's sort of like special enrollment along the lines of HIPAA, where if you have a loss of coverage, you have a qualifying life event to request coverage under a parent's employer's plan if you are under age 26. Some other options for health insurance include the health insurance marketplace, the Children's Health Insurance Program, or CHIP, and Medicaid. So another alternative now that we have, also known as Obamacare, is the health insurance marketplace, and it is still possible to apply for financial need-based coverage directly through the state. But that's something that they will even automatically screen you for if you go to the health insurance marketplace. You'll probably notice in your COBRA election notice that you receive from your employer mention of this as an option, as an alternative to COBRA as well. And the value in the coverage through the health insurance marketplace is that you may qualify for premium assistance or tax credits to help make the coverage more affordable. This slide goes over some basic facts about shopping for coverage in the marketplace. It is a new way to find health coverage, and there are several ways to apply, either online, by mail, by phone, or in person. The website and phone number are provided here for you. And there's an open enrollment every year, similar to most employer plans. That period has passed for 2016, but the period for 2017 will most likely run from November 2016 through February 2017. So that open enrollment is not an option for anyone, but outside of open enrollment, you can enroll if you have a qualifying life event through special enrollment. So that would be your option. As an alternative to COBRA, you've had an involuntary loss of coverage through your active employee health benefits, and you could choose that as an alternative to COBRA. One thing that is very important to note is that sometimes people may decide, well, I'll start with COBRA, and then if you decide it's too expensive, you want to switch off to the marketplace plan, there are special considerations to be aware of, especially if you're concerned about the premium assistance and the tax credits being available to you. You can't actually replace COBRA with marketplace coverage unless it's open enrollment, even if your COBRA coverage hasn't run out. So basically, you can either step on to the marketplace as an alternative to COBRA before any of your 18 months of COBRA continuation would start, or after you have exhausted COBRA, or during open enrollment. So those are really the 3 entry points. If you decide to sign up for COBRA and drop it after 3 months, for example, and then try to go to the marketplace, you may find that now the coverage, even if they allow you to enroll, would be more expensive because you may be no longer eligible for the premium assistance or tax credits, unfortunately. So another thing that I would bring up too, because it would be a consideration if you're considering COBRA versus marketplace coverage, is that the marketplace does offer dental plans as well as health plans. And if you are interested in reviewing these plans and figuring out whether any of your providers are in network and if that's a major consideration for COBRA versus a marketplace plan, healthcare.gov has some screening tools where you can examine the plan options and decide if you would like to have a marketplace plan versus COBRA. There is actually one other website. I'm not sure if I included it on this slide. No, I didn't. So this is something you may want to write down. Residents of Illinois are actually also able to visit a website called getcoveredillinois.gov, or they can call 866-311-1119. And the Illinois website will also give you options for marketplace coverage, and this website, is my understanding, is that it's more helpful actually to screen someone about qualifying for financial assistance. And of course, if you do call them, they automatically screen you for your eligibility for financial assistance, and that may lead into screening whether you qualify for Medicaid as well, which happens to be free or low-cost care based on income and family size. You can apply for and enroll in Medicaid at any time of year, so there are no special considerations for entry points of Medicaid versus COBRA or anything like that, as there is with the regular marketplace coverage. And if you qualify, your coverage can begin immediately. Another program you will be automatically screened for is CHIP, which is the Children's Health Insurance Program, and this is low-cost health coverage for families with income above the limit for Medicaid. It does cover parents and pregnant women in addition to children, and for more information on this state program and the rules and qualifying guidelines, you would visit insurekidsnow.gov or call 877-543-7669. Finally, we would like to offer some brief but important retirement plan reminders. Regardless of the type of plan, and I do understand that some of you may have both a 401k and a traditional pension, it is a great idea to keep your address updated with the plan if you move, so that you can continue to receive benefit plan mailings and information about your plan options. And that way the plan also knows how to find you when it comes time to pay benefits. Normal retirement age for full benefits is usually age 65, but different plans offer different options, and just like health plans, retirement plans must be administered according to a set of written rules. And so if you don't already have a copy, or you may have misplaced or don't remember receiving it, you may want to ask your human resources or benefits person for a copy of the written rules. And the formal name for this document is an SPD, or Summary Plan Description. And each plan will have its own separate rules for benefit eligibility and payment, meaning that if you have both the 401k and a traditional pension, there are 2 SPDs that you would want to request. With defined benefit or traditional pensions, one must typically wait until a certain age to receive payment of benefits, unless the employer terminates the plan, and then they'll want to contact you to advise you of the options to move your money out of the plan. That's why it's so important to make sure you keep in touch with your plan, even if you no longer work with this company. A lot of times it doesn't seem like a logical thing that you would think to follow up with any former employers. But in my job here at EBSA, we get phone calls all the time from people requesting assistance to try to track down a pension through a former employer. And unfortunately, it's just the way of the world where there are often mergers, acquisitions, and companies going out of business. And so one way that you can avoid headaches later on is just to make sure you update your contact and mailing information with a plan. With a 401k, you may have a bit more of flexibility to decide whether to leave your money with the plan until retirement or to roll it over into your next employer's plan or an individual retirement account or IRA. But that's something that will be explained in greater detail in that SPD, which is why it's a great idea to obtain it and read through it. With many 401k plans, a distribution or cash-out option may exist as well, but you should be aware that you may be taxed and owe an additional tax penalty if you have the account cashed out prior to age 59.5 due to IRS rule. And finally, I'd like to leave you with contact information in case you come up with any questions today and it's after the point in time where you can ask it over the webinar and we can answer it here. You're free to call anytime, toll free at 866-444-3272. You can visit us on our website, submit a web inquiry as well, and we get back to you. And you can also find many helpful publications on our website as well, including the brochure, Retirement and Healthcare Coverage Questions and Answers for Dislocated Workers. That is something that Chelsea did provide for you, though, in the file pod for download, and she also provided the web link where you can just access it online. And I see a question here was asked about how long it takes to find out if you can get marketplace coverage. I wish I had more information about that. Unfortunately, my agency is involved with these health insurance marketplace reforms just at the level where it applies to existing employer plans. So issues involving, the changes such as the preventive services being covered at no additional cost or copayment under plans, dependent children being allowed to stay covered until age 26. So we don't actually run the marketplace, and I don't have any solid information or data to give you on that. But one thing I do know is that the 15th of the month is an important cutoff point. So if you contact the federal marketplace, either by going online to healthcare.gov or calling the phone number that I had on the earlier slide, which I can flip back to if you'd like, if you contact them by the 15th of the month, that means you can get covered by the 1st of the following month. If you would contact them in the second half of any month, now it skips a month before you could get covered. So that is an important consideration too. If you're trying to make sure that your coverage would take effect as soon as possible, you definitely want to make sure you contact them from the 1st through the 15th of any particular month to find out about signing up for coverage or how much it might cost you.
Well, thank you, Lisa, for your informative information. We're going to, if there's no other questions, we're going to go ahead and move on to Jeff Rotier.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, Martha. I saw a question here from Roxanne regarding COBRA. If you have 60 days after termination or 60 days after a notice is received to elect, that is actually, you get 60 days from the later of either of those two dates. So if your employer happens to be really on top of things and they send out the COBRA notice in advance of your last day of work, you have 60 days from your last day of work to elect COBRA because that's the later date. But what's more common is that your last day of work happens and then within 44 days you receive the election notice, so you'll have 60 days from the later of the last day of work or the day of your notice.
Well, thank you for that clarification. Next, we'll go to Jeff Rotier with Illinois Department of Employment Services. Jeff?
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So today I'm going to go over unemployment insurance, and I'm going to go over employment services as well. As you can see in the slide, that unemployment insurance is a state-administered program. The one thing that a lot of people do not know, though, is the workers do not pay into unemployment insurance. So it is, in this case, it is actually an employer. The employers get taxed on this. So that's just a common misconception. Okay, I'm going to go a little bit over how we, see how you get, how it's going to be paid out to you based on wages. So you must have been paid $1,600 or more in wages during your base period for insured work, and at least 440 of your base period wages are paid outside the calendar quarter in which your wages were the highest. So I'm going to break down that a little bit more. So if you look at this base period information, if you see if your benefit year begins, so basically when you open your benefit in January, February, March of 2016, your base period is going to constitute all the wages you've made between October 1st, 2014 through September 30th, 2015. And the quarters, when it refers to the quarters, it would be October, November, December. That would be quarter number 1. And then January, February, March, et cetera, et cetera. So each of those, that's how the quarters are broken down. So 1,600 would have to be in the highest of that 3-month quarter, and 440 in the remaining quarters. And that's what it's going to be locked in when you're filing for unemployment when you open your claim. Okay, this is the minimum and maximum amount you could receive for unemployment. Right now, the minimum amount per individual is $51 a week, and the maximum amount is $426 per week. If you notice, too, you can receive extra if you are claiming a dependent. Hello? If you're claiming a dependent, and the minimum amount for that would be $66 a week, including your minimum amount, and the maximum would be $507. And you do receive a little bit more for a dependent child under 18. I do recommend, if you have the option, always pick the dependent of your child. You can only claim one. And you can only claim your spouse if your spouse hasn't been working for over a year and they have no wages in their base period. So, and if you do have a spouse that is unemployed and they are also claiming a child, you cannot claim the same child as your spouse. So it's only one child per household. Filing your claim. So when you file your claim, you want to do it the first week that you become unemployed. And preferably you'd want to do it online. I would recommend that you do not go to the local office and try to file your claim. I mean, they can help you and assist you but I'm assuming everyone here is computer savvy. If not, definitely you can go to your local office and they will help you through the steps. But basically you want to go to www.ids.illinois.gov, and it's available anytime. And always, if you have any questions, you can always call us at the Claimant Service Center, and the number is right there, 1-800-244-5631. Our hours are Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5 p.m., except for holidays. Okay. Things that you're going to need when you're filing your claims, you're going to need a copy of your Social Security number, and you're going to need either your driver's license or state ID. If you have that information on hand, you don't really need to have like the physical copies unless you're to go into the local office. If you do end up going to local offices for identification purposes, they are going to require that you do have a photo ID and a copy of your Social Security card. Things that you need to put down when you are applying is the name, address, and phone numbers of your last employers for the past 18 months. If this is just the only employer you've had for the past 18 months, you wouldn't have to worry about that as much. The information should already be in the system, but just in case, it is good to have that information. And your reason for separation in this case will be laid off. I do have people that say discharge, and that would mean that you are fired from your position. And anything like a discharge or a voluntary quit would put a stop on your claim until until you were to speak to a third party about that, in which case they would determine if you were eligible. But in this case, we do not have to worry about that, so let's go to the next slide. Okay, information you're going to need to file to claim a dependent would be their Social Security number. And like I said before, you can only claim one dependent per claim. So, and only one parent can claim one child. So after your claim is filed, you're going to get a wage report, and I'm going to show you a copy of that in a moment. It's going to tell you what your weekly benefit amount is going to be and your maximum benefit amount. So your maximum benefit amount is going to be your weekly benefit amount times 26. Okay. The payment type. I highly recommend that you do direct deposit. You will receive a debit card regardless, but you do not have to activate your debit card. It's just there just in case you want to use that, but it's a lot easier to do it direct deposit, and you don't have to worry. Some people have a hard time making purchases with the debit card. There might be some restrictions, so direct deposit is definitely a better way to go. So when you are certifying for unemployment, and certification is going to take place 2 weeks after the certification process is going to begin 2 weeks after you open your claim. Reason being is you're going to report about the 2 weeks prior to, and you're going to certify every other week. So when you do your first certificate, I'm sorry, I keep getting feedback. Okay. Benefits are paid for calendar weeks of unemployment. A calendar week begins on Sunday and ends on Saturday. So the week in which you become unemployed and you open your claim, you are going to report any information about that week and then the follow-up week. So on week number 3, that's when you're going to do your initial certification, and every other week after that, you're going to keep copying that result, and you're going to file for the 2 weeks previous. Because obviously you would not have that information until after the fact. Here is a copy of what you're going to receive in the mail. Important things to look at here is your call date. In this case, it's Wednesday. Usually it's either a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. I highly recommend that you do your teleserve or your online certification on the day that it says on your UI benefit explanation. And it tells you when your first call date is going to be. In this case, obviously it's a little bit older, but it's 6/9/2010. So you definitely need to certify on the days that it tells you to, because you'll not receive anything until you certify for the weeks in question. Okay. And here's basically what I was talking about. The certification process. It is every 2 weeks, and you will not get paid for it unless you do your certification. And you could do that on the, I don't think I failed to mention that you can do that on the computer or you can do it by phone. I recommend the computer. If you do it by phone, usually I tell people to answer the questions beforehand. So when you're prompted to on the phone, you can answer them without running out of time. Okay, so the best way to certify, like I said, is at the www.ids.illinois.gov. I'm going to just show you some screenshots momentarily to kind of give you an idea of what it's going to look like. And if you do want to do teleserve, it's this number right here, 312-338-4337. And that number is available from 5 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. As far as the internet cert, that would be 24/7 in that case. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. It would be 5 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. also for doing it over the internet as well. And if you have any questions, definitely call, like I said before, call the call center at 1-800-244-5631. So this is what it's going to look like when you go to the IDS website. If you see on the left, it says, I need to file my unemployment claim. So that's going to be the first link that you're going to click on. And in the second box here, you say you file for unemployment insurance. There's going to be hyperlinks to file online. So you would just click the hyperlink, and it's going to break down the filing process for you. And it gives you, right there, you can see you have all the necessary information that you're going to need. If you need to go to a local office, you can hit that hyperlink right there, and it'll bring you there. And if you're filing for unemployment insurance and live out of state, which in this case I don't think you'd have to worry about, but we can talk about that on a case-by-case basis, the information is right there as well. So certification, which is the follow-up to your claiming unemployment, is the process I told you about that will happen every 2 weeks. And you can click right there, and it's going to give you more information on how to certify, and it's going to bring you to the link where you will do your 2-week certification if you decide to do it on the computer. You see right there where it says Form Work Search Record, you are going to have to every week write down at least 3 to 5 different employers that you have contacted for work, and I'm going to show you what that's going to look like. You can download this information right here. Also, there's an online component that I will talk about briefly. Okay. Now these are the requirements, and in this case, I mean you're eligible on the fact that you have been laid off. Other things you have to take into effect too are you able, available, and actively seeking work for those weeks? And I'm going to break that down in a minute. You must complete registration in Illinois Job Link. Illinois Job Link is basically like a career builder or a monster.com site. In this case, the state, but it's run by the state, and it is a mandatory that you do register with Illinois Job Link. The one good thing about Illinois Job Link is it's free to the job seeker, and it's free to the employer. Employers more likely use it because they didn't have to pay to use it, and also the employers can do searches as well for job seekers that have the skill set that they're looking for, so that's also beneficial as well. Okay, another thing so we're going to go back to certification real quick. When you do certify for that first time, the first week is going to be what we call a waiting week, and then that's an administrative week, so you will not receive a payment for that 1 week. So when you certify for the first time, you're only going to receive a 1 week payment. And like I said, you must certify every 2 weeks. Okay. This is what I was talking about, able and available. So you have to report any unavailable days when you certify. That would be something like vacation or if you have a sick child. And you have to be actively seeking work. So one of the ways that we determine that is you keep your work search record. Most of the time, we will not ask for your work search record, so a lot of this is on you to report accurately if you're able and available for work and if you're actively seeking work. But I would keep a copy of your work search record. I would keep it even a year after you finish your unemployment, just in case we ever try to do an audit on that, because we would need that information, and it's just to cover you. Also, you're going to be doing a work search record online too through Illinois Job Link, and we'll go into Illinois Job Link in a little more detail momentarily. Okay. So this is on the work search record that we said everything must be documented. Please hold on to it for at least a year, and it is available on our website as I showed you a moment ago. And you can enter your work search into IJL. So keep a paper copy, and you'll have a copy in Illinois Job Link as well. This is what the paper copy of the work search record is going to be. So basically, it breaks it down by contact date. And remember, as we determine a week, it's Sunday to Saturday of the week in question. So anything within that range, you would put down week by week. In a lot of cases, you may not need to fill out all this information, but just fill out the information that would apply to that contact that you made. Because sometimes, obviously, you're not going to talk to a person, and you might not. A lot of times, you won't have the results right afterwards. But if you do, that's fine. There is a box for that as well. Okay, this is about partial work. So you can work and collect unemployment at the same time. So say your weekly benefit amount is $400 a week, and this is not taken into account dependent amount. You can make up to $200 that week. Anything that exceeds 50% of your weekly benefit amount, so whatever your benefit amount is, they would deduct dollar per dollar at that point. If you make over your weekly benefit amount in any given week, it would close your claim effective that week because our system would see that you had gone back to work. And if you do end up getting laid off or the situation happens where you're out of work again within your benefit year, You can always do an additional claim. You just have to have the information for that employer, reason for separation. I know this is a lot of information at once, but like I said before, it is definitely available on the IDS website. So hopefully this is just more of a refresher, and when you file for your claim that you'll go through this and read everything. Okay, so, and like I said, if your wages are equal to or greater than your weekly benefit amount, your wage deduction eliminates your benefit for that week. And you cannot certify again until you do that additional claim. So it is very important that you do an additional claim if your certification ends and you end up being laid off or you have a lack of work. And dependent allowance is payable only if benefits are payable. So if you go over for that week, your weekly benefit amount that week, you do not receive the dependent allowance for that week in question. As we had talked about before, you can either allot for direct deposit or you can do the debit card. You'll get the debit card anyways, but you do not have to activate it if you go the direct deposit route. Usually after you certify, your benefits should arrive 2 to 3 days afterwards. And also about taxes, unemployment is taxed, so you can elect to get taxes deducted when you do your unemployment, or you can defer, but you'll have to pay them later on. So a lot of people choose to just get their taxes deducted at the start, so they don't have to worry about reporting that information later. Okay, dislocated worker. This is where you're at right now. We have talked a little bit about WIO already and different opportunities. Another incentive to employers is that they might qualify for on-the-job training money because that you are laid off. So that's something to keep in mind as well, definitely for the employer. And it's important to register with your WIOA provider ASAP. So to look into these trainings, I would get started right away just so you can get into the system. Because the sooner you get in, the better. And then, there's that process you have to get through, the initial process, so might as well, be proactive about it and get that started right away. And also, if you are going into training, and a lot of people ask, you can get that waived. If you go the general route and you go back to college on your own accord, you might have to send us a work search record and a copy of your school schedule just so that we can, see if you are available for full-time work. In the case where you elect to do this training through your WIO provider, they can send us the information, and that would be waived, so you wouldn't have to worry about that. But just a reminder, if you are going to school on your own and it's coming out of pocket, you do have to provide us that information. We will ask for a work search record and a copy of your school schedule. So this is about Illinois Job Link. This is the link right here. I'm going to show you a screenshot momentarily. So everyone must register with Illinois Job Link. If you don't, this could also stop your claim. So you can even go on today and get registered just to set up the process. And this is available anytime. If you do need assistance with this, you can always go to one of the local offices' resource rooms. But it's easier to, you can definitely do it by home, and you don't have to go into the office at all if you don't need to. This is what the screenshot looks like of Illinois Job Link. So you're going to have to create a username and password, and these are different searches. There's a lot of different search criteria you can do. And the one thing I did say about Illinois Job Link is it's free to employers as well, and there's a lot of employers that use it just because of that. And they can do a search for you as well if you have a skill set. And we can also do referrals, for the employers. Just make sure all your information is up to date in the Illinois Job Link, and you definitely want to make sure you do have a resume provided as well. I recommend that you create your own resume and then upload it, but there is, you can make a resume in IJL, but it's a lot easier just to upload one, usually like with a Microsoft Word document. Okay, so this is a lot of the information I already talked about how it's no cost, and it's the employers, allows employers to connect with you based on keywords in your resume. One there is some software that will actually look at keywords when you are doing your resume, and that's at resonate.com. And that might be something you want to look at too, because a lot of these, when you're applying, there's a lot of employers that use these gatekeepers, and I did just provide the link. So that's resonate.com. So maybe run your resume through that and see if it does what it says about your industry that you're looking to get into, your specific job title. Okay, so that's the end of my slides. I'm going to see that we do have, I do see one question here. It's no wages at all for spouse or under a limit. What we would do is we would look at their base period for the same time period, and they would have to have no wages in there to be a dependent spouse. And do I have any other questions at this time? Okay, well, thank you for your time. I'm going to put down my email address as well, so if you do have any follow-up questions, you can definitely get a hold of me. And if you want to, you can also send me your resume as well, so if I do see anything that matches your job description, I can definitely send it on, do a referral to the employer. Well, thank you very much, and if you have any questions, feel free to email me.
There is another question there, Jeff, that Roxanne just put up there.
Oh, I didn't, okay.
How long after you register?
Usually it's, it's usually 24 hours before the letter goes out, and then, it goes out by, regular mail. So I would say like 3 to 5 days, but it shouldn't affect you because you get that 2-week period before you actually do your first certification, so that it gives you a little bit of time too. And a lot of this stuff you can, when you apply online, you can get that information electronically as well.
Great. Let's see.
This is Chelsea with WorkNet again. Before Martha concludes the webinar, I just wanted to take a second to show everyone where you can go on Illinois WorkNet to access your layoff page if you've not yet visited it. So Martha, do you see the Illinois WorkNet homepage on the screen now?
I do.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you could see it before I started talking.
Right.
So I just went to www.illinoisworknet.com, and this is our landing page, our home page. So if you're looking for your company layoff page, just to either access the recording of this link and to take that online survey that Kathleen and Martha have both mentioned, you would go to the Layoff Assistance menu, and you'd click the Company Layoff Search option. So this is going to take you to the page that shows all of the current company layoff pages in the state of Illinois. You have a couple different options. The page shows in alphabetical order, so you can just scroll down the page to find your company. Or if you obviously know the name of your company, so if you'd rather, there is a keyword search option. So if you just start typing in your company name, you can see I just typed in computer, and you can see we have the pages here that you can access depending on the location where you've been you worked at, and you can click on the page for you, and you'll see there is a little message board, and so this just provides any information that the local areas have for you. And then at the bottom there's a link to take the survey. So the survey just provides more information about you, and then at the end you have the option to request that someone follow up with you for further assistance. So you have the option to log in, or you have the option to take the survey anonymously. So if you click to take it without an account, you just click that option and you click submit. And then it's just going to reconfirm that you're on the correct page, just to make sure that you're associating yourself with the right company so the right person contacts you. And then when you click next, you're just going to start into that survey and answering those questions. And like I said, at the end, you have the option to say, yes, I want someone to contact me. So I just wanted to show you all the steps you can take to access this so you don't have to wonder how to get there after the webinar. So just www.illinoisworknet.com. And then we'll also post this archived webinar and all the presentations to those pages as well for this company. And that's all I had. So if Martha, you want to conclude the webinar?
Yeah, thank you, Chelsea. And as Chelsea said, all this information is on your company layoff page. And these services, if you live in, not in the area where you work, they are located around the state, around the country. And there is a location drop down where you could put in your zip code, and it will bring up the center near you, the Illinois WorkNet Center, where you could go, and then it will have the phone number and website. So there's a lot of services available, and I hope that you access them, and I wish you the best of luck. Thank you.